Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Any Given Podcast with your hosts, Brendan Ward and my main man.
Ethan Simpson.
I was hoping you would get that in there. So Ethan, how's it been? How you been doing?
Pretty good. Just doing a lot of staying at home, little social distancing, a little bit of graphic design. You know how it is.
Oh, kind of the same stuff I've been doing. Just sitting around doing nothing. In my free time, I've been trying to mess a little bit around with some jersey shops on Photoshop, too. So I kind of entirely get it.
Oh yeah, I mean, got to stay entertained somehow. Don't want to go crazy.
Well, when the only thing that really happened in the last week, and then we're getting ready to talk about the NFL draft, you gotta make something happen, man.
Right? And I mean, the draft was the first ever virtual draft. I think that's kind of how everybody's doing stuff now. So hopefully, hopefully this pandemic is over soon. Not just because of sports, but just for everything that's going on. And you don't need people sick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even a big fan of going and sitting at restaurants and stuff like that, but I think that might be one of the first things I do when this stuff reopens, just so I could have that interaction with people. It's been a little different, but as you alluded to, the draft last week was a virtual draft. How did you feel about like the look and stuff of kind of how it went down?
I liked it. I don't think it should have taken as long as it did, especially with the first round, just because a lot of the players that went top 10 already knew where they were going. So it was kind of, they were doing it like as if it was live. Like they were doing it, I mean, it was live, but like if they were doing it from Vegas. So they
Yeah,
so they had it all spaced out. Like guys had time to walk up onto the stage and get their hats and shake Goodell's hand, but that wasn't the case. Everybody was at home with their families.
exactly. I think by the time it ended, it was 12:30, and I think the last pick by the Kansas City Chiefs was probably sent in somewhere around 11:30, 11:45. They were that far behind just because of the production in. Like I get when it happens in, like you said, in when they're doing it live in Vegas, in Nashville, in Philly, in Chicago, in New York. I get where there's that delay where they show the production of the guy going up on the stage and meeting Goodell and going in the green room and getting their jersey and their hat and stuff like that. But here, everything was sitting in their living room. They had the camera on the guys at all time. Cut to the people getting the phone call. Cut to them saying, "Oh my God, I'm happy to be a Bengal or a Redskin or a Brown or a Cowboy or an Eagle." Cut to that and then just kind of get over it. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the setting we were in, that allowed you to do that sort of thing, knowing that we couldn't give you this full on event production that we were planning to in the first place.
Yeah, it was kind of played out long, and then like as soon as the pick came in, the guys were ESPN guys were still talking, which I get, but then they would cut to commercial, and it's like, come on, you couldn't announce the pick and then cut to commercial, or at least cut to commercial when they were still on the clock.
Listen, me and you both work in the broadcasting industry. We 100% understand the need for ads and ad placement and advertisement money. But the placement, like you said, could have just been better. I get like it was a live broadcast, so some of them were kind of time slotted, but also you could have moved that around a little bit, especially knowing that teams only get 10 or 15 minutes total between
Yeah,
in picks. So if you say each team gets 10 minutes a pick, and then say you slot that team for 5 minutes after that, 15 minutes total. Every 15 minutes you take a commercial break, so that when that commercial break happens, that's the first 2 or 3 minutes of that team being on the clock,
yeah,
and then it follows the 5 minutes you were already allowed to talk about the player and give highlights and stuff like that. I feel like you could have did it where you had your 10-minute thing, you announce the pick, they talk about it for 5 minutes, you go to commercial for 2.5, and then immediately when you're coming back from commercial, that team that was on the clock only has a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. Now it gets a little different when teams start picking earlier and earlier into their time slot, but it also would allow you to stay on that, hey, every 15 minutes we've got a 2.5-minute commercial. That format clock, I thought, was a little off for them, and it could have been a lot better in terms of announcing picks, because that's the worst part of the draft for me. It's 4 hours long, and a lot of times I'm sitting here for 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes looking at the screen at the bottom that says the pick is in, and I'm just sitting here like, all right, well, and it got a little hard to do the live stream we were doing, because I was like, all right, well, this team needs this team needs that. And once we got through that, we were like, oh, man, they're still not announcing it. It was kind of...
Yeah, and then you have to throw in the fillers, and it's like stretching an hour and a half podcast into 4 hours. And that's when you're sitting there like you kind of run out of stuff to talk about, because if you watch the draft, obviously we did, and people that are listening most likely did. But if you watch it, they cut from so many different people giving their own perspective on who needs drafted, what team needs what. And it's different than just two guys live streaming it on a YouTube page. We don't have the same resources, obviously, as the worldwide leader in sports. But still, it's like they had their all their guys on there, like Louis Riddick and whatnot, and Booger, and then they had Trey Wingo, and then they cut to Shefty, and then they cut to Mel, and they had all those guys on there, compared to just us having to talk about it. And then day two, it kind of sped up, but then towards the end it got slow, and we ended up talking about like where our stuff from core values after we graduated, where did it end up on the computer?
We started getting into more personal, like OMS stuff, and I'm sure viewers were like, why do we want to hear this right now? But it was just kind of the conversation we were having, because like you said, we don't have those resources. Yeah, we could have done all the research in the world. I'm not sure if when Lynn Bowden Jr. got picked in that late, when he did, I could have told you that he was from Youngstown, and that Youngstown has the 7th highest murder rate in the world. It's 7 times higher than most places in the rest of Ohio. But what about that? Like, it seemed like every time one of these kids got picked that had a semi messed up childhood, they made sure to put that out. I think T. Higgins got drafted round 2, pick 1, and in the stats it said mother was addicted to narcotic drugs for 16 years or something like that.
Yeah, and like everything's like, it was a single mom. Dad died when he was this old and whatnot. And it's just like, come on, guys. You couldn't think of like anything positive to say about how about T. Higgins' mom being 12 years clean? You know?
Yeah. She's 12 years clean would have been the better wording. But no, not, hey, congratulations. Here's the best day of your life.
Yeah. Your mom used to smoke crack. Even
though your parents were pieces of crap earlier in your life. Yeah. It was like, I was like, come on, man. They beat all the odds. They got to where they were going, and then ESPN, and they do it often. This year, it just seemed like it was every other player. It was something like, what was the one kid that his dad got shot? And we were like, that's not something I'm sure he wants to talk about on the day he got drafted to the NFL.
Yeah, and then there was like the one guy whose grandfather was the first African American player at Notre Dame, which was like one of the few times they actually put like a good story in there, like an inspirational story.
Exactly. That's the stuff I want to hear about. This guy's a generational player of a guy who broke barriers back when barriers need to be broken. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear, well, this guy made the NFL now that he's 21, but his dad back when he was 2 years old got shot for selling crack or something. I don't want to hear that.
Right. Like his dad, I remember one player, his dad and his uncle or his brother-in-law or something got killed in a car accident late last year or something like that. And so why post that when it's these guys, the best day of these guys' life? Yeah, it's just their childhood dreams came true.
I'm sure it already sucks for that guy too, that he's got to go through it without that parent or that family member or something like that. So I'm sure it's already been a crappy day that way. And then the emotions changed, and you got that high of being drafted, and then they were like, "Yeah, no."
Oh, hey, remember when this happened?
Yeah. Oh, hey, remember when you lost your entire family?
right? It's like when Danny Shelton got drafted, and they said that whole story about his brother getting killed or something like that, and he like, which was it was a pretty good story. He took the gun away from the assailant and like beat the crap out of him until the cops came. So that was like a kind of inspirational story, but still, no need to put any of that. Let these guys talk about what they did in college. You know,
These guys want to become a success in the NFL and then write a book telling me about their story like that. By all means, I'll purchase the book just to support a Cleveland Brown or something like that. But for ESPN to do that on draft day, I'm not a big fan of it, and I know they always do it, and they probably won't change. But the draft was fun. Some big winners, some big losers, man. So I guess my biggest question to you is, who are the biggest winners you think from this year's draft?
I would say definitely the Bengals. Obviously, got the first overall pick. Got a great quarterback, Ohio boy, with Joe Burrow. I would also say definitely the Dolphins. Didn't they have the most picks this year?
They had the most picks, and they ended up taking the majority of them as well.
Yeah, and then I would say on top of that, the Cardinals too. They came out hot. The Cowboys, definitely, they got some good receivers. Got some good footage of that too. And this isn't me just being a homer. This is the Browns, just because they filled all the spots they needed to, and they stole People Jones in the 6th round.
I mean, it's really hard to argue with you about the Browns. Like, I get, like, people are going to be like, oh, this is a Cleveland podcast. They even got the colors in the logo and stuff like that. But Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski clearly sat down with each other, looked at the roster, and asked what the holes were, and went after significant talent in each of those holes.
Yeah.
To know they need a third or fourth wide receiver and be able to steal, like you said, Peoples Jones in the 6th round was just, I think, fantastic to me. Peoples Jones, a lot of people here in Ohio are going to be like, oh, he's from that team up north. It doesn't matter when you're now in the pros, whatever it is. And the guy was productive, experienced. I don't think there was another receiver in the draft that was experienced as Peoples Jones.
Yeah, and to get him at 6, that was fantastic. That goes to show that just how smart of a GM Barry is.
Yeah, I think his aggressive approach. I don't want to say the Browns won the offseason because we say that all the time and then sometimes it doesn't pan out. But I think that we finally have they finally have a cohesive unit in what they are doing. What do you think about them kind of bringing in another tight end in the draft despite having two big time tight ends already on the roster?
So with that, obviously, at first I was kind of like, okay, so they're trying to get rid of Njoku, but then yesterday they just signed him to. I'm sorry, Monday they just signed him to his 5th-year option. So I'm just thinking maybe they use the kid they drafted as maybe a pass blocker, or maybe toss him in at just in like goal line position, something like that.
Well, here's the thing, and I think with the way we're talking about how Barry and Stefanski took this analytical sit back and see what we need and see what we have approach, really took a look at the numbers for last year in the different personnels and realized that the thing that Freddie Kitchens was not taking advantage of was multiple tight end sets. They were significantly better in 12 personnel and 13 personnel than they were in 11 personnel. And I think the 2 tight end sets, you're not always going to have Hooper and Njoku on the field. So you're going to need the kid they drafted, or they'll probably have 4 or 5 tight ends on the active roster, I think, throughout the entire year.
Yeah, and obviously with the injury to Njoku breaking his wrist last year, maybe they picked up that guy too, just to have him there, just in case anything happens to Njoku.
Yeah, kind of like a depth pick, and it was, but they got him in the third or the fourth round. Obviously, a guy you are not kind of staking your future on as a guy that's going to be your star tight end in the third or fourth round. You're just hoping that guy contributes in some way, because then that pick was worth it. So I don't think it says too much. I think Monday, the re-signing or them picking up Njoku's fifth-year option says a lot more to, hey, we believe in this guy. He's just kind of been given a bad rep. He wasn't allowed to return last year per Freddie Kitchens or John Dorsey, one of the two. Now that those guys are out, they're like, hey, we're going to kind of give a leap of faith. We're going to re-up you not only for this year, but we're also going to pick up the options for the following year, which you have to do but prior to the player's fourth year. Something they'll probably have, they're going to be doing for Baker Mayfield next year is 100%, depending on his play. It's a big year for Baker Mayfield.
Absolutely. This is, as a lot of analysts were saying, this is pretty much his make or break year, which I don't think so. I think I like Baker. I like the passion, the drive, the hunger that he has. He always talks about this chip on his shoulder, but that's from Texas Tech. I like that he rides with it, but I mean, the kid was number 1 overall 2 years ago. So I don't really see the chip right now. Maybe it's the people that are, talking smack about him, and I don't see this as his make or break year. I think we definitely have to hold on to Baker for a while. I'm sick of just this carousel of quarterbacks that has been going on pretty much my whole life. So I'm just sick of it. Just hold on to a guy. Like, look at other teams that held on to guys, even if they played like crap, like the Bengals holding on to Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, or the Red Rifle. Red Rocket. The Red Rifle is they held on to him even when he was playing terribly. But you see how that came out. They got the first overall pick, but at least they sat with him for a while to make sure that he worked out.
I look at it like this, man. There's been less than 10 different Super Bowl winning starting quarterbacks in the last roughly 20 years. What has there been? There's been Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger, Flacco, Wilson.
Yeah.
And now Mahomes.
Mm.
And that's it. Oh, Drew Brees. So that's 7 in the last 20 years. And that's all I got to really say to that is, how can you ever figure out if that guy is your potential franchise guy after 4 years? Because if you ask San Francisco after 4 years if Colin Kaepernick was their future for an extended period of time, they would have told you, yeah. If you ask Kansas City right now, Mahomes is 100% their future. And that's the right answer because of what he has already done for them. I'm just sitting here saying, like, people are sitting here telling me, or they'll sit here and argue that you've got this 4 or 5 year window before you have to pay Baker, that's when he has to win. No, if you're going to keep this guy for 15, 20 years, like franchise quarterbacks are supposed to be kept, you need to not worry about, like, obviously we want to freaking win now. That's something we want to do. But you need to not worry about, oh, we can only win during now. The Peoples-Jones pick, I think, sets them up for life after Landry and Beckham. I think keeping Higgins around could also set them up for life after Landry and Beckham, because Beckham probably doesn't get another contract here.
Yeah, Beckham, he's probably going to ask for too much. I feel like, yeah, you're definitely going to see him float around before his career is over to at least a few different teams. He kind of reminds me of like a T.O. character.
Yeah, that is probably where his career ends up. He'll probably play on 2 year deals anywhere that'll pay him the money. And they'll probably, If he starts producing again for the Browns like he did previously with the Giants, the Browns aren't going to be able to pay him when it comes to it because you got the Mayfield money coming, you got the Garrett money coming, you got the Denzel Ward money coming, you've got all these younger guys that have been good talent for you that you're going to have to pay. Nick Chubb is one where I'm not sure what they're going to do with that decision, considering they're going to have to pay him before they pay any of the other guys, with him not being a first-round pick.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. You have to think about it. I know it's not that big of a. It doesn't seem that big of a deal, but you got to remember that Beckham is 4 years older than Baker Mayfield, or he was drafted 4 years before Baker Mayfield. So just through that, I know that it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but when you talk about football years, 4 years is a long time in football years, considering all the injuries and whatnot. Did you see the picture that Odell posted on his Instagram story, I think last week?
I don't believe I recall.
It was like him and his girl holding their hands out, and this dude's hands were like zigzagged just because how many times they've been broken. And if you think about it, that's going to just turn into arthritis as he gets older.
Yeah.
And with the injuries the continuous injuries happening in the NFL and in football throughout his whole life, that's just going to speed up arthritis coming to him sooner and sooner. So you have to think about the future beyond, like you said, Odell and Jarvis. I don't know. Maybe Jarvis wants to stay longer. I think he really likes it here. He likes Baker, but I can definitely see Odell being like I said, the TO type, just floating around to different teams, just signing those deals. So you have to focus on the future, and I think our future definitely is Peoples-Jones and Higgins, even though they were kind of reluctant to sign Higgins. Higgins and Baker have such great chemistry together that, I mean, those two, they can connect. It seemed like Odell and Baker didn't really have the same connection that Jarvis and Higgins had with Baker.
I look at it like this. Year one Baker with Higgins majorly on the field for him, pretty much most of the snaps pre-Odell, was able, but there were two totally different Baker Mayfields between year one and year two. Year one Baker Mayfield, I probably would have bet a mortgage on that he eventually wins a Super Bowl. Year two Baker Mayfield, I might have bet that he's signing a 1-year contract with the New Orleans Saints just to try to make his career back on track.
Now, yeah, but see, there's always the sophomore slump that they always talk about. And everybody in Cleveland, including myself, was like, Baker's not going to hit this slump. Baker's not going to hit it. And he hit it. And I think a majority of that has to do with Freddie Kitchens with no respect and authority in the locker room. And pretty much, like we talked about during the draft special, he had probably the first 10 plays scripted. And then after that, he was just trying to go off top, freestyling it. And I think most of them were just like, hit Odell, even though Odell was double, triple coveraged every time.
Yeah, it seemed definitely like it was kind of, I think without a doubt, I can sit here and tell you that Freddie Kitchens is probably very good at breaking down film because he can script plays. But once it came down to the in-game adjustments and the stuff he didn't break down prior, it was over for him. Like you said, he couldn't make the adjustments. It became, hey, just toss it up to Odell. Let's see what happens. Odell, run a fade. Jarvis, you run a drag underneath. Hand the ball to Nick Chubb. But even then, he kind of got away from the running once he was down a touchdown. It didn't take a lot for them to get away from the run game, which was their most successful thing. I told you guys all year last year, you run the Cowboys offense, the Browns could have been really successful. If they run Nick Chubb like the Cowboys do Ezekiel Elliott, I think the Browns could be a very good playoff team to maybe even give the Chiefs for a run for their money in the AFC. And you could take that to the bank. You could put me on freezing cold takes if you want later in the year. I just think that if they run the ball with Nick Chubb 25, 30 times a game, 20, 25, 30 times a game, without a doubt, I think the Browns could be a 10-6, 11-5 football team.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, they had the potential to do that last year. Yeah, it's just it was the coaching staff, and he wouldn't let Todd Haley coach anything or call any plays. It was kind of ridiculous how that whole situation worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of got a little bit away from the draft, though, but talking about the Browns, obviously we think the Browns won the draft. Not necessarily were the best in the draft, but overall it's a win for them. Who do you think are the biggest losers of this draft? Whether it be, I'll let you say who you think it is.
I mean, it's easy. I think everybody knows who lost the draft this year, and that is the Green Bay Packers. Here's why. You have a Hall of Fame quarterback who is, I believe he's 36.
Yeah, somewhere around there. 36. He's been in the league about 15, 16 years.
So he's not quite past his – he might be past his prime, but he's not done yet. So here's what I'm just thinking. Why would you draft with your 26th overall pick a quarterback from Utah State, Jordan Love, when you already have a Hall of Fame quarterback who took you to the NFC Championship last year? It's not like you guys had a rough season. You guys got knocked out in the wild card. You guys went to the NFC Championship, and you drafted a quarterback, a second-string quarterback. You drafted your third-string running back in the second round. And then in the third round, you drafted a tight end from Cincinnati. And then after that, you drafted 3 offensive linemen in the 6th round. And then in the 7th, a cornerback and an edge. You did nothing. You gave Aaron Rodgers no weapons besides a third-string running back and a second-string tight end, which is absolutely ridiculous, if you ask me.
I'll sit here and tell you like this. I agree with you that the Packers had the worst draft there is. My initial reaction to the Jordan Love pick was, okay, I don't really understand it, but it allows him to develop, like everyone said, that kid still needed to, for an extended period of time. But then I got to thinking, they just spent a first-round pick on this guy.
Yeah.
Management in a year, maybe 2, probably less than 2, are going to want to see this kid play. In addition to that, though, at the end of last year, I could have told you that the 2 teams that probably needed to go skill position early in this draft and often in this draft were the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. Both quarterbacks were playing very well last year. And I'll sit here and, as a Cowboys fan, tell you that had Carson Wentz had somebody to throw the dang ball to, they probably were playing in that NFC Championship game themselves.
Yeah.
He was. I can't deny that Carson Wentz was playing very well at the end of last year, and it's the reason my Dallas Cowboys didn't win the NFC East last year. A few injuries here and there. We won't get into that. But the way those 2 went at the draft this year really kind of, it's the tale of 2. Everyone's talking about how the Eagles maybe even had the best draft of anybody. Here, everybody, it's universal that the Packers were very bad this year in the draft.
Yeah, and the tight end they took in the 3rd round, they even said they might use him as a fullback, not even as a tight end.
Exactly. You went and you have a Hall of Fame quarterback at your disposal right now, and you got him 0 weapons. The Eagles drafted 4 players that can play wide receiver.
Yeah. And even the Eagles, you know what? They went and got a quarterback, even though they have Carson Wentz. But here's the thing. They got a quarterback who played in Power 5 against Power 5 teams, and he proved himself. He's played in the national championship.
Without a doubt, man, you can go look back at both of our reactions to both of those picks on our live streams. They'll be up on the YouTube channel later tonight, if not in the morning. But exactly, you could go and look back at that Jalen Hurts pick, and even me, you could see me be like, man, I can't believe they picked this guy. Because with the injury kind of ordeal with Carson Wentz, you could see Jalen Hurts playing, but like you said, the Power 5 experience, the national championship experience. He didn't just go play at Utah State. He played at the University of Alabama, which is possibly the #1 college football school in the world, in all of, I won't say the world, in all of America. And then to add that, he went to Lincoln Riley's offense, who had produced 2 Heisman Trophy winners in a row.
And first overall picks.
And succeeded, and possibly during the beginning of last year, I would have said looked better than both Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma.
And here's another thing about the Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts, comparing them. Like I said and you said, Jalen Hurts performed in the national championship with Alabama. It wasn't like he played in the Frisco Bowl against Kent State and lost.
Yeah, it looked terrible. Kent State isn't known for their defense. They're known for shootout games, even in the Mid-American Conference.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love Kent State. Big fan. Love what Sean Lewis is doing with the team and all that, the flash fast offense and everything. The defense definitely does need some work in different spots. But yeah, I covered the Kent State Flashes during their 2019 season. I was on the sidelines for home games, and let me tell you what, it's a good team for the Mid-American Conference, but it's not like playing against Auburn.
Exactly, and it's never going to be. That's why you'll never. I mean, I never say never, but you probably won't ever see a MAC team be the national champion, just because of the difference in competition. But still, Utah State is supposed to be in a conference that's supposed to be better than the Mid-American Conference. And for a guy that went, what'd they go this year? Like 7-8? It was something like that. It wasn't good. 10-6. They weren't very good this year.
Utah State?
Yeah.
I believe they went. I
know it was barely over 500, if it was even over 500.
Yeah, it was. Give me 1 second. Let me look that up for you because I totally forgot. It's they were 7-6.
Exactly, barely over 500 in a conference that's not really known for their football. But you're going to sit here and tell me that this kid is the best player on a bad team. He just has these mental mistakes that he always makes. That is the problem with quarterbacks in the NFL. That's the worst thing you could have coming into the NFL is the mental mistakes. Everybody that gets drafted in the NFL has the arm talent, has the intangibles, has all that stuff. If you don't have the mental, you can't succeed in the NFL. Ask Tom Brady. He doesn't even have the talent that some of these better guys have, but he had the mental, and it's what made him the greatest of all time. So if you're going to tell me this guy's coming in with the mental mistakes of a toddler, why the hell is he going in the first round?
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the Kent State defense and Jordan Love in the first round, Jordan Love threw 2 picks against the Kent State secondary in the Frisco Bowl. And I know I keep reverting back to it, but that was just one of the things where Kent State was the underdog. Everybody was picking Love to come out, and pretty much ESPN and all of the analysts picked Love to come out and do what Dustin Crum came out and did to Utah State.
He was supposed to bowl over the Kent State Golden Flashes. Yeah. Everybody thought that's what would happen, and Kent State showed up. But this NFL quarterback, this first-round NFL quarterback, like you said, looked like a piece of garbage against a defense that had nobody on the team that's going to be drafted.
Yeah. So pretty much that's the Jordan Love take. And then they picked up in the second round A.J. Dillon from Boston College when Dobbins, was still on the board.
Baltimore Ravens were the benefiters of that, but I agree. Just to take this middle tier running back when you already have Aaron Jones on your roster, or if you're going to go running back, by all means, go running back. I get the need for skilled players, but why go for a third tier guy like when you said like guys like J.K. are still on the board?
Yeah, that one was also a head scratcher. It was like, what is going, like, you could have picked up a wide receiver with the second pick, or not the second pick, in the second round. Why not get like everybody was saying, you gave Aaron Rodgers no weapons. Why not pick up a wide receiver there? Why not, down in the 6th round or the 7th round or the 5th round, pick up a wide receiver? Do something. Give Aaron Rodgers something to work with.
Basically, what it boils down to is I think Green Bay signed Aaron Rodgers' ticket out of the door within the next year or two last week.
Well, Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be just like with Tom Brady. He can go to any team he wants that needs a quarterback.
Where do you think Aaron Rodgers ends up?
I really hope he goes to the Bears.
I mean, I seen a Photoshop jersey swap of that the other day, and it looks so weird to me. You want to know where I think makes sense for him? And
where's that?
Don't sit here and call me a homer, but I think the Dallas Cowboys makes a lot of sense for Aaron Rodgers. Let me explain. Let me not tell you I'm a homer, but they've got this quarterback in Dak Prescott who they're going to pay $34 million this year, who, if they don't win a Super Bowl, I'm not sure that they pay next year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They might franchise tag him again next year, which I could see them doing, paying him $37 million. He wants $40 million for 5, 6, 7 years. And that's just not what the Cowboys are going to give him. And so they're in this spot where they're going to have to decide, do we want to pay Dak? Do we want to go in the draft and see what we could find? I truly think that they could also take the route where Aaron Rodgers is towards the back half of his career. He probably is going to, once he leaves the Green Bay Packers, play 3 or 4 more years, maybe even 5. And the Cowboys are already paying people on the team that are going to be there for that period of time. They've got Amari Cooper for 5 more years at $20 million a year. They've got Ezekiel Elliott for 4 or 5 more years at quite a few amount of money. Now, say Aaron Rodgers, back half of his career, is not going to get the $40 million that Tom Brady got. The reason Tom Brady got $30 million a year is because he's won those Super Bowls. I'm not sure the Dallas Cowboys are going to pay Aaron Rodgers like that. But I think if they decide to move on from Dak Prescott and think, okay, the draft is going to be our answer, nobody's going to want to just kind of restart with that. I think Jerry Jones could call Aaron Rodgers and be like, hey, obviously you're towards the back half of your career and we're still thinking about what quarterback we're going to have for our future. We didn't think Dak Prescott was the answer. Do you want to be that bridge guy?
Yeah, I can totally see it. And knowing Jerry Jones is the type of guy, the win now guy. And already he's hesitant to pay the big bucks to Dak Prescott. So, yeah, like you were saying, if they don't win, if they go 500 or below 500, I don't really see Dak Prescott coming back.
Oh, and no, I think at the beginning of the year last year, I think Dak was earning his money. I think if Dak would have played how he played the first 5 or 6 games of the year last year, throughout the entire year, we would be talking right now about Dak making $40 million a year for the foreseeable future. But he had that fall off. The Cowboys started 4-2, 5-1, something like that. Really good. Looking like there was no chance that the Eagles were going to catch them halfway through the season. And then they kind of just had this fall off where they couldn't beat a team that was above 500. They couldn't beat a team, even if they knew they were better than that team, because the Cowboys are a really good constructed team and they've got really good talent on the roster. They just couldn't put it together. And I really hope Mike McCarthy changes that, and I think he will. But Dak just hasn't shown he could win the big game.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And to speak on Aaron Rodgers going to the Cowboys potentially, do you think that Aaron wants to go back and play with Mike McCarthy after all the stuff that went on between those two, even though Mike McCarthy was a winning coach, Aaron Rodgers was a winning quarterback. They won a Super Bowl together, but yet they still fired him. I don't know. I'm not a Packers fan. Never have been. Never really liked the Packers. So,
I absolutely can't stand the Packers. Here's what I'll say on that. I think at the time, Mike McCarthy probably deserved to be fired. I think the way the game was headed, it had passed him on with the offense he was running over in Green Bay.
yeah.
I also think that Aaron Rodgers probably realizes he's not going to have a relationship with another coach like he had with Mike McCarthy. I think it's already coming out that him and Matt LaFleur don't really get along.
Mm-hmm.
They just drafted a first-round pick that seemingly is Matt LaFleur's guy. It's the guy who Matt LaFleur's like, hey, if you're keeping me around, this is the quarterback I want to succeed, the Hall of Famer I've got now that's already given me a bad time. So I think with the way that the LaFleur relationship has gone for Rodgers, as well as him maybe seeing the success that McCarthy has in Dallas, sans a Hall of Fame quarterback, would kind of give Rodgers the mentality that, hey, if I go there, I can make them a better team, which I truly think he can. I would 100% rather have Aaron Rodgers, even if it's a year or two down the line.
Yeah, I totally get it. You get the Hall of Fame quarterback with his old coach. Makes total sense. And to continue on with, so definitely the Packers, they get an F in my book. They lost the whole draft. I would say the second team to lose the draft had to be the New England Patriots. Just to go down who they drafted, they got Duggar from Lenore Rhine, safety linebacker in the second round. In the second round, they got Josh Uchi from linebacker from Michigan. Hope I said that right. They got edge rusher Jennings in the third round from Alabama. I think that was a good pickup.
Yeah.
But then with their 91st pick and the 101st pick, they went back to back with tight ends, which either they're trying to. I know that Belichick loves his tight ends, but to go back to back with tight ends that people probably wouldn't have picked up, they could have waited a little bit. Then in the fifth round, they go with that kicker who everybody's from Marshall, who everybody's saying is a far right neo-Nazi. And then they go back to back offensive linemen, linebacker, and then another offensive lineman.
I would say in reacting to hear everything, the best pick is the edge rusher from Alabama to me. With the two tight ends back to back, it almost seems like, and I think I texted you this on Saturday when they did it. It almost seemed like hey, we just lost all our tight ends. We got to fill that position immediately because we've always had tight ends or these interior guys that catch footballs. And then with the offensive line, I think they had a pretty good offensive line last year. So, I understand needing offensive line depth, but to just kind of at a certain point in the draft, just be like, it's easier to pick offensive linemen than late round skill position guys or defensive backs or anything like that. It's almost what they did, right? It was almost like they phoned it in and it was like, oh my God, we could throw at a dartboard and an offensive lineman might work. But if we pick a skill position player, odds are that guy's not going to work out.
Yeah. I think in classic Patriot fashion, they didn't pick up. I thought they were going to pick up either Eason or Fromm. I definitely thought they were. They let those guys slip to the Bills and the Colts, right?
I think Eason went to the Colts. Fromm went to the Bills, yeah.
And then in classic Belichick fashion, undrafted free agent from Michigan State, Brian Laricki, which is funny because a little more than a couple years ago, he did the same thing, got an unsigned free agent out of Michigan State, one Mr. Brian Hoyer. And so I tweeted this out after I saw that. It's the Spider-Man, pointing at Spider-Man gif.
I'm you and you're me.
Yeah, like when Hoyer and Laricki see each other in the locker room?
Plus or minus eight games played for Brian Hoyer this year.
Minus.
Think he plays less than 8 games?
Yeah.
Think they're rolling with Stidham?
I don't know. It's gonna be a carousel. They're gonna go through the different quarterbacks depending on how they play.
My worry is that I think Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. I think he's gonna think last year he was the real deal. I think him just kind of getting all this experience is just helping him out. The thing I'm worried about is the quarterback rich for the last 20 years are going to take 1 year off, and they're going to get quarterback richer.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Why not?
I mean, if for Belichick's sake and for his success after Tom Brady, I think it has to be, hey, we're going to have to get that Trevor Lawrence, or I'm not sure Justin Fields really fits in their system, but that's the top 2 quarterbacks. It's seemingly coming this year. Obviously, things change. Last year, the top 2 quarterbacks were Tua and Herbert, and Joe Burrow by the end of the year was certified number 1. If anybody else said anything different, it was wrong. So that changes 24/7, but right now it's Lawrence and Fields. And Lawrence really seems like a guy that Belichick would be like, all right, screw it. We're not going to win any games just to pick him. And if they do end up with 2 or 3, he almost seems like a guy that I would say would trade up to 1 to make sure he gets Lawrence.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. I could also see them waiting and getting a quarterback in the later rounds that isn't as well known as Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields.
I get where you're going with that. Say it, man. Don't shy away from it.
Maybe like a 6th round Dustin Crum pickup.
You think? I think really Dustin Crum could get himself into that 3rd or 4th round with a MAC Player of the Year this year, if I'm being totally honest. Just the way he plays, it seems like it could translate well. He's a bigger body dude. He's not going to come in and he's not going to tear you apart, but I think his arm strength and everything really reminds me of Jameis coming out of college. The guy, except this guy is making a lot smarter decisions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he. If you watch, I mean, I know you have, obviously you watched the Frisco Bowl. If you watch him play, his size and the way he plays is almost like a Josh Allen type style player. Big, good arm, can run, can get out of the pocket, is fast. I think he might, you know what? He might sneak up into the 4 or 5.
You want me to give you a bold prediction?
Go on.
Isaiah McCoy is a 1st or 2nd round wide receiver next year. As long as he plays the whole season.
I could see that. Hey, I've been saying the 2 Kent State players that are going to come out in the draft are Isaiah McCoy and Dustin Crum. Because, like I said, I was on the sidelines with those guys. Let me tell you what, those are some big guys, especially McCoy.
Oh, yeah.
He is giant, and he can get up there, and he's got the hands for sure.
Remember Corey Davis at Western Michigan?
Yeah.
I think McCoy has the chance to have a better season than he did, and Davis ended up in the middle of the 1st round.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and I can definitely see Dustin Crum winning MAC Player of the Year and them going to the MAC Championship. They just need to work on a few quirks they have. But other than that, I think, you know what I like too is a lot of the team stayed back. And so it's going to be a lot of the same guys playing together. And Dustin Crum's going from 14 to 7, so he's rocking number 7 this year.
Oh, he's switching up?
Yeah.
It's a good one. Once we get him on the show, that's a good question to ask him.
Yeah, why are you switching up the numbers now?
Why are you switching up the numbers, man?
Gotta stick with 14, dude.
Whatever number he has, you need to get that mug signed and put it behind you.
Oh, I know. I got a space like right there.
Yeah, I gotta eventually figure out a different spot to put my desk over here, but I get it.
Yeah, I still gotta set up my desk. I'm still rocking the folding table.
Yeah, I mean, it works for what it works, and then obviously after the stay at home and bullcrap ends, obviously we'll figure something out for recording, but I'm sure it'll be together somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, I was on the sidelines with those guys, and those are some big dudes. Like Sean Lewis is 6'7", I think. I think Dustin Crum is 6'5" or something like that, or 6'4". McCoy's 6'3". They're just some giant dudes over there on the sideline. Made me feel like a little kid.
I mean, Crum has all the measurables too of the quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see the one thing that we missed out on. Not only us as broadcasters and people that are getting into the industry, but also as fans, we missed out on a lot of the combine and pro days. So that was one of the things going into the draft. A lot of these guys were getting drafted, and I had heard of them, but I didn't really get a chance to see any of their pro days because there wasn't any.
It very much so made the process of learning these different people for the live stream. And I actually kind of admitted to that while we were kind of on live stream about that Antonio Gandy Golden out of Liberty. Like, yes, he was ranked 16, and I feel like if there were pro days and like more coverage of the combine and stuff like that, I think me and you would have 100% known who that kid was, just because he's over there in the American Conference. He's leading the American Conference in pretty much everything a receiver needs to lead him in. He's big, he's strong, he's everything somebody's looking for in a receiver. And I feel like we would have known who that kid was, but to not have access to his pro day or anything like that just really hurt some of these people.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was talking about on draft day on the podcast or on the broadcast is the kids in high school that are even start your freshman year, sophomore year, just start putting out your workout tapes online, and even kids in college that aren't getting like as much recognition, put your workout tapes online, put you working out, running routes, have one of your buddies or somebody from the team go out there and throw you passes, have you run routes, do all that kind of stuff, and just put it out there, because that's one of the ways. Like, scouts are looking on YouTube and stuff.
That's where they start.
Yeah.
I would say, like you just said, the stock on highlight tapes is at an all-time high.
Yeah, because you have everybody, like, you could even go out there and record it with your phone just because of how powerful the cameras are on your phone. Back in the day, the camera that's in our phone would cost like millions of dollars, back in the guys trying to get like in the 70s and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that I can shoot a video on my phone and it almost be similar. I mean, obviously there's going to be a little bit of different quirks because I'm holding it in my hand sideways, but the similar quality between what I could shoot on an iPhone 11 compared to what I could shoot on one of the HD cameras we had at OMS.
Yeah.
If it wasn't me or you or a professional broadcaster or somebody that can look at it and see exactly the difference or know that it's a phone compared to an HD camera, the average casual viewer isn't going to have any clue.
Yeah. I'm just saying, even too, like to piggyback off what you were saying is you could even have a couple of your buddies set up their cameras at different parts of a field, so you can get different angles.
Oh, you could really put a whole production into it as long as you've got friends willing to just help you record, basically. Like right? You said. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, even go out with some of your teammates and say, hey, you guys help me film this part, and then I'll film your, help each other out and go and film each other working out, and then have each one of you put out your own highlight tapes, just because that's how you get out there.
Absolutely. Highlight tapes, I think, like I said, stock all time high, without a doubt. There's not much I could say other than it really hurt some of the middle of the line prospects, late first rounders, early second, late second, early third. Really, late first rounders turned into middle of the pack second rounders. Late second rounders turned into late third rounders. Late third rounders, late fourth. It really almost pushed some of these players whose pro days would have helped solidify them as first round picks or top flight second round picks. It really kind of ruined the way they could have went about that and almost lost a couple people significant money, considering, like, I think if Donovan Peoples-Jones would have put a pro day on, no way he goes sixth round.
No, not at all.
No way that kid catches balls that are supposed to be right for him, and they look at that guy and they're like, yeah, sixth round, maybe undrafted.
Right. And that the same goes for Moss's kid, who just signed with the Redskins. He went undrafted, which I was hoping the Browns would have picked him up, because if you watched him all season, he didn't drop a single pass. He looked great out there, and he can block, and he's a Moss too.
I think if I would have taken a shot at any tight end in the draft, it would have been him.
Yeah.
Like, I get the kid from Dayton was the best tight end in all of college football, and the numbers are there to back it up. But I think Moss showed the NFL talent.
Yeah.
And he's, like you said, he's Randy Moss's son. You don't think one of the best wide receivers ever is going to put the money into his son succeeding?
Right. And you don't, and like growing up and training, who are you training with? Randy Moss?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, here's my thing. Randy Moss is pretty egotistical. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think he would pretty much take it as like a hit on his own if his son didn't succeed.
Yeah, I could see that, but I mean, I do like him going to the Redskins. I think the Redskins are going to be a lot better this year. I mean, you probably don't like this as a Cowboys fan.
I was actually getting ready to say that I think if Haskins ends up being kind of what he was at Ohio State, that team is scary, man. McLaurin coming back, adding Chase Young on the edge. Like you said, Moss is going to be really good. I think Gandy Golden's going to be really good. I think they added a lot of pieces in this draft that, as long as the quarterback position pans out for them, I think Dan Snyder really has himself something going over there. And yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and they added the coaching staff. Like, their head coach is Ron Rivera. Their defensive coordinator is Jack Del Rio. Like, they have a bunch of pure talent on the field and on the sidelines. So that's one of the teams that's going to come out and be sneaky good. Maybe not to where they could be, but they're going to be sneaky good.
And at post-draft, I think the two most intriguing divisions to me are probably the AFC North and the NFC East, because I only seen any of those teams really get better. Like, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers got as much better as the Ravens or the Browns did, but I think they got better. I don't think that the Eagles or the Giants got as much better as the Cowboys did, but I still think they significantly got better. So something I wanted to do today, and something we talked about doing today, is way too early win projections for the AFC North and the NFC East. And we're kind of getting up there in time, so we might as well get into that now. So I'll let you go first. I'll let you get the AFC North, and then I'll give you what I think. And then after that, we'll do the NFC East. Just kind of what you think. What are their what win totals do you think they'll each have, and maybe why? What changed for you for those guys?
So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say for the Browns, I'm giving them 11-5. For the Ravens, I'm giving them 11-5 as well. I'm going to say you can intertwine either or, Browns or Ravens, for first place, just because I really do think this, with Kevin Stefanski coming in, they're, we say this every year, changing the culture, but I think I like the Kevin Stefanski pickup. So I do think that the Browns are going to be a lot better. They filled a lot of holes. So, and the Ravens are going to be scary good. But let's not forget who the Browns have on their team if everybody's healthy.
I mean, I'll let you give your bottom two, and then I'll react to what you just said,
Okay.
because I could totally kind of agree with you, but also I have some kind of. But go ahead with the Steelers and the Bengals.
I'm going to say the Steelers go 8-8, and the Ravens at most go 5-11.
Okay. All right. So with the Bengals and the Steelers, I disagree in win totals. I think the Steelers go 9-7. They were 8-8, 9-7 this year, and they tried it out, Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. Now, I don't think they have a good enough offense to compete with the top two teams. You said the Browns and the Ravens, but I still think they're good enough to win a couple games. Now, the Bengals, I think Joe Burrow helps them out, so I don't think they only win 5, but I think they probably go 7-9. I think Joe Burrow proves he deserves to be in the league. I think he justifies the number 1 overall pick, but I don't think he changes that offense that much that quickly. So I think they lose the division. I think they're last in the division, as well as the Steelers being third in the division. Here's where it changes up for me. I think the Browns, while they significantly got better, and I do think the Kevin Stefanski hire is probably the best coaching hire they've ever had in my entire lifetime. Obviously, they won games prior to us being born, so they had better coaches back then. But I think the Kevin Stefanski hire is better than Eric Mangini, better than Chudzinski, better than Butch Davis, better than Patton, better than name them all, whatever you want to name. But I think it's great. And like you said, on paper, the Browns have probably the best roster in the league, dude. Without a doubt, I think on paper, the Browns have top 2 or 3 rosters in the entire NFL. But I think they go 10-6. I think they make the playoffs. I think they'll be that 6th or 7th wild card, but I think they go 10-6. I think the Baltimore Ravens win the division. Now, they ran away with the division towards the end of the year last year, and I don't think Lamar Jackson starts to plays as well as he did last year. I think we saw the best of the best when it came to Lamar Jackson last year. It's the reason he won MVP, and it's the reason a lot of people changed their mind on exactly who he is. And I think he's good enough to win the division, but I think they added enough weapons in this draft to where he doesn't ever have to be that guy anymore.
Let's not forget what happened when the Browns marched into Baltimore last season.
And that's why I say the Browns still win quite a few games, and I think Lamar Jackson comes back down to earth. But I think the Ravens have their quarterback so long as they can protect him for the next 10 years. Just like I think the Browns do. I think the only team in the AFC North that doesn't have a quarterback for the long-term future, and it's weird to say, is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's why I said they're 8-8 is good for me, just because they are going to face teams that they can beat. Their defense is still stellar. See what I did there?
Yeah.
And they just need to figure out that hole at quarterback. They have Juju, they have the running backs, they have all that. It's just because Mason Rudolph and Devlin are not the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, 100. I thought they would be a team that looked at Jalen Hurts a little bit more. Obviously, the Eagles took him earlier than I thought anybody would ever take him. Not because I didn't think he'd be a good quarterback. I just think there was obviously the top 3, and then the analysts put Jordan Love there, but I thought there was the top 3, and then there was Jalen Hurts. Everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I thought they would look at Jalen Hurts, but I truly think the AFC North shakes out as the Ravens win it. I'd love to give it to the Browns, but I'm going to be the cautious Cleveland Browns supporter and say, hey, let's not put that big of expectations on us. But I think it's very disappointing if the Browns don't make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally agree with you on that one. So with that being said, for the AFC North, we're going to switch it off to the NFC East, and let's hear your predictions for the NFC East.
Okay, so I think the New York Giants finished 6-10, and I think that's good enough for fourth in the division. I think Dwayne Haskins ends up getting benched, and Kyle Allen is the Redskins starter for the end of the year and the majority of the year, and that propels them to the third in the division at 7-9. I think the Eagles finished 10-6. This seems like a good number for them. I think Carson Wentz. I don't want to wish injury on anybody, but I think it's a safe bet that Carson Wentz misses a couple games, and the Eagles don't have that backup that can carry them anymore. You know what I'm saying? They implode if they don't have Carson Wentz for the entire year. And then I think the Cowboys. I don't think they set the world on fire. I think they probably 11-5. I think they sweep Philadelphia for the year, and I think that's what gives them the division. There's never, for the last, I forget exactly how long it's been, but there hasn't been a back-to-back division winner in the NFC East for quite a while, and I can't see with the difference in drafts, with as good as the Cowboys did in the draft this year, and I'm not just tooting my own team's horn. Everybody's saying it. You said it. Jeremiah says it. Orlovsky says it. They all say it, that the Cowboys did so well in the draft, and I think they did as well. I think with the draft, they turned what was already pretty much a dead heat between the two teams. Both games last year could have went either way. I think the Cowboys turned that in their favor enough to win 2 games next year against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I think with the bottom two, I think those two could go either way, Giants or Redskins. Because the Giants did kind of they did the smart thing. They went out and they got their offensive linemen straight out of the gates. And then, which I thought he was going to go to the Browns, Andrew Thomas.
Yeah.
But they got him at 4. And then in the 3rd round, they picked up another offensive tackle out of Connecticut. And then in the 5th, an offensive lineman out of Oregon. So I think what they were trying to do is just beef up their line and then beef up the secondary and their linebackers, the places that they had holes at the most. They didn't pick up a wide receiver, which I kind of thought was strange. I thought they could have picked up at least one, even if it was later on, in the 5th or 6th. But other than that, I think they did beef up their team a little bit. And I think they gave Daniel some more protection. And with the Redskins, obviously they got Chase Young, who without a doubt was probably the best player in the draft.
Yeah, there's no arguing that.
And then they got Antonio Gibson out of Memphis, who I've been talking about for a while. And then they got Gandy Golden, and they got 2 O-linemen. So I think that they were more focused on working on their offense. And then they got a couple more. They got a linebacker and a safety. So, yeah, for that one, that could go either way, Giants or Redskins.
That's what it was for me, too. It was almost a flip of the coin. I just, like you, the way I went with it, I think the Redskins added more in the draft, which is why I said I think they finished 3rd rather than last.
That makes sense. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, so you're taking Cowboys, Ravens to be the head of those two.
I think Cowboys won, Eagles too, yeah.
No, I mean like for the top of the AFC North and NFC East.
Yes, I think the Ravens win the North and the Cowboys win the East.
Alrighty. Whew. Excuse me. All right, so this is a time where we're going to flip it over to another sport that is in the middle of postponement due to the coronavirus, COVID-19, and that is Major League Baseball. And as you know, Brendan, I'm a big baseball guy.
Oh, without a doubt. Way bigger than I could ever be, I think.
I love baseball. Go to games, watch games on TV, do all that. So Ken Rosenthal reported in the Athletic that he said the most realistic time range, quote, the most realistic time range for opening day would be somewhere between mid-June and July 4th. In the view of most officials, would allow for an 80 to 100 game regular season, with the schedule running through October. An expanded postseason at neutral sites might follow, with the World Series ending in late November or early December, end quote. So they had been talking at the beginning of this month that they wanted to go back to the spring training sites and have the Grapefruit League in Florida and the Cactus League in Arizona, and have those be like the AL and NL, and start the season that way. And they would create a new division with teams, which for me, it's kind of weird just because I'm so used to hating the Tigers, the Twins, the Royals, and Tigers, Twins, Royals, White Sox.
White Sox, yeah.
So it'd be a little weird switching it up, I think, which I wouldn't really mind it too much. But what would happen after the stay-at-home order, and then everybody goes back to their own stadiums? Do you just go back to the regular division? It's just kind of confusing,
Here's the thing. I think if you decide to change the divisions, you probably also have to decide that the entire season and postseason and everything is not going to be played in their home stadiums. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that would just be, I think that's why they were talking about mid-June to July 4th being the start date, just so it doesn't mess up those kind of things, just so it doesn't mess up the divisions or anything like that. And another thing that I thought was very odd was the late November, early December end to the season in the World Series. Just because the neutral sites, that means teams like the Washington Nationals, the Indians, the Yankees, Red Sox, the Mariners, all the Twins, all the northern teams aren't going to be able to play in front of their home crowd. And say World Series happens where it's the Dodgers and the Indians. What happens there? They play at Dodger Stadium. They have the home field advantage. And then they play the other game at Angel Stadium, where Dodgers fans could easily just drive up to Anaheim and be right there. So there's no home field advantage for a northern team. It's just kind of iffy that way. But with how everything's going right now, I mean, I guess it would work. Maybe have, like, if it's a West Coast team playing a northern team or something like that, maybe play a game in Florida or in Georgia or something like that, just to keep them separated so they couldn't do the home field advantage at both stadiums.
I think there's two options for baseball to return. It's completely neutral, where, like you said, they just go to the spring training facilities, or maybe every team aside from Houston is eligible to use Minute Maid Park, or every team besides the Diamondbacks are able to play down there in Arizona. Or either that, or they start out at these neutral sites to kind of coincide with the kind of the closers and stuff like that going on right now. But I think if you also do that, you should leave the divisions alone, because then that allows for when you come home and when we open up Progressive and everything like that, that allows for then those Detroit Tigers to come in and play us. And it means something, because at that point, if you switch around my division and let's say the Dodgers are in the 2020 Central now, who cares that, like, us as Indians fans are going to be very excited that the Tigers are here to play, because it's a Central Division. It's a team, like you said earlier, we've always loved to hate. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So they switch up these divisions. We're gonna love to hate, and we're gonna want to tune into that Detroit Tigers game, because that's the way it's always been. But really, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just it's the whole thing with, as they're saying now, the new normal, just because everything's so messed up, and all the commissioners and stuff, like, they've had meetings with the president and all that, and they're trying to figure out ways that they can continue the seasons, just because how much revenue that sports bring in. Not just because everybody loves sports, not everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just that everybody loves sports, but how much revenue it brings in, not only to those sports, but to the country. And they were also talking about doing double headers that only went to the 7th inning, like it's Little League. And it's just, they're trying to make the seasons happen, which, like I said, I totally understand, but it's going to mess everything up. There's no real way to get this done without completely changing everything that we know about baseball and what we've known about baseball to this point.
Well, that's my thing either. If you're talking about all this kind of change, like to the divisions based on the Cactus League and the Grapefruit League and stuff like that, are the Indians only going to play Cactus League teams? Am I going to get 82 games of Cactus League play?
Yeah, that's another thing too. How are they going to do it? Like I said earlier, how are they going to do it when the stay-at-home order is lifted and people can actually go back into public?
Exactly. I don't really. I'm not going to say don't bring baseball back, because I'd love to watch baseball, but I'm saying, logistically, you got to be able to know that you can't really change the divisions, because no matter what, a Yankees-Red Sox game is going to matter to those teams. Because of that. A White Sox-Tigers game, an Indians-Twins game, an Indians-White Sox game. It matters too much to those fan bases to be like, well, they don't really matter this year. Or how about, like, the Indians then getting put into a division that maybe has a Los Angeles Dodgers team in it, that obviously I don't think the Indians are going to be the better regular season. I think they have a shot in a 7-game series, but I think the Dodgers probably win more games in the regular season, because the Indians aren't built to go for broke in the regular season. They're built to, let's make it there and let's show you guys we have as strong as a lineup as you. But we have to make the managerial changes that Terry Francona is so good at. The Indians aren't ever going to be 110, 120 win team. They're going to be a 90 to 105 win team at most.
Yeah, and on top of that, with all this going on, and then Francisco Lindor's contract, what's going to happen if we play half a season? Does that mean we get next year half a season with him before he has to change his contract or re-sign, or what? That's,
from everything I have heard, and it's the biggest story in the Mookie Betts situation, because he only has 1 year and they just traded for him. Mm-hmm. From everything I've heard is that even if they do not return to baseball this year at all, it still counts as one season for those guys. So the Dodgers who traded for Mookie Betts would have gave up all that for him and might not have gotten a single thing out of him.
Yeah, which completely blows, and it doesn't seem fair to not only the player, the team, the league, but to the fans as well. Think about how many Mookie Betts jerseys already sold.
Well, if you think about it, we were winding down to 2 years left for Lindor, this year and next year, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it'd be great if they re-signed him, but Dolan has pretty much said it's not happening. And you understand baseball. I understand baseball. We get that. But as a fan, me and you can sit back and be like, all right, we get it, but we need to enjoy it now. And to lose an entire year of Francisco Lindor, who to me is a top 5 player in all of baseball, just is something that hurts coming from a Cleveland standpoint, for sure. And even losing as much as we've already lost, we're now exactly a month and 2 days from when opening day here in Cleveland was supposed to happen. So we've already missed a month of baseball. And it's like, I don't think I truly understood just how much baseball meant to me, especially me, until this year, because I don't think I truly understood how much I watched it or paid attention to it or cared for it until this year.
Yeah. And, I mean, you know me, I'm a baseball guy. I love baseball. That's kind of how I felt about the NBA. Like, don't get me wrong, I hate to sound like one of those guys, but, I watched every single Cavs game when LeBron was there and JR and all those guys. And it wasn't just because we were winning, it was just because it was exciting. And I still watched the Cavs last year and this year. So nobody call me like a front runner fan. I still watched them when we only had Kyrie, watched them when LeBron left. So let's pump the brakes on calling me a fake fan.
No, I'll get into what you're trying to say here. With LeBron, it was appointment watching. You wanted to tune into every single damn game there was. With this team that is currently constructed, I can miss 3 games and still know they're the same team.
Yeah.
Missing 3 LeBron games is different than missing 3 games when Kevin Love is the best player on your team and Tristan Thompson is the second best player on your team.
Right. And you're relying on Colin Sexton and Larry Nance Jr.
And Colin Sexton, who has a 5 IQ in basketball, is your top performer.
Yeah. So like I was saying, like I didn't realize how much I would miss watching basketball this season just because it was like, like you said, you could miss a few Cavs games and still know that they either lost by 1 billion or lost by 2 points, which is insane. There was no middle ground when it comes to the Cavs losing. They either lose by 1 billion or they lose by like a free throw or something. It's unbelievable. It's like you were so close. You were right there.
We're either a G League team or the NBA champions.
Right. So to get back to baseball, so with opening day being unknown, an unknown date for opening day, opening day was originally scheduled for March 26th, but obviously everybody had to stop due to the shutdown. And according to Jared Diamond of Wall Street Journal, fans this week will finally receive an answer to the question, when will I get my money back? Teams are planning to unveil new ticket policies following updated guidance from the league office that lay groundwork for refunds. A person familiar with the matter said. That's what he put into his article. So me as a season ticket holder, we already got billed for March. We got billed for all of March, and the Indians have been speaking with us just because they've been sending emails like ever since March, like this is why you were billed for March. And then a couple weeks later, it was like this is going to happen. We will update you coming up in the near future. And so I'm not saying I'm excited for the refund. I'm just I'd much rather spend the money and watch baseball. But 2 fans already sued the MLB all 30 clubs and ticket resellers last week over the policy. So I think that's why they were like, okay, we need to figure this out now. We can't have, how many season ticket holders suing us. And with the shutdown happening and the tickets, they've also put out that like interns and part-time employees will be let go, and only not essential workers, but you know what I'm saying, like full-time employees would be paid and all this stuff. So what do you think this means for the MLB if they are going to come back in mid-June to July, if they have to give back all this money?
I think all it means is that they realize that they can't really uphold those original season ticket packages. You know what I'm saying? You get how many games roughly?
It's 182 in the season. I have quarter season tickets, so that's can't remember how many I get. I get a good amount.
Sounds like roughly like 40.
Let's see here.
If there's 162 games, I'd say roughly about 40 games, 39 games, somewhere in that area. But I would just say, I think they realize that no matter...
You get about 20 to 22 games.
Okay. Well, you get a quarter of the home games. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So 20 to 22 games, 81 home games. So I think they realized, like, the people that own full years, you know what I'm saying? There's no way they could uphold that anymore. Now they're getting into the people that own half the year. Not a damn chance they could uphold that anymore either. They could uphold your 22 games, but they might not even be able to do that because they're talking about coming back to fanless stadiums to begin with. They're talking about possibly coming back, and even when they do bring fans back, only playing games in Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, warm weather states, just because now we're looking at November, December as an end date for MLB. So I think the refunds really just signifies that they realize they can't uphold those original season ticket holder contracts, or however you want to word it. I think that's what the refund is there. Just they can't uphold that original stated amount of games that you were getting. So I think they'll probably give every single season ticket holder their money back, and then basically be like, hey, at the point we bring fans back, then maybe we'll sell season tickets. But then again, I doubt we probably aren't looking at progressive field games this year.
Yeah, which is totally a shame. And it like I've said multiple times tonight, it not only sucks for the teams and the players, it sucks for the fans, because that's a whole experience, going out to the ballpark with, your kids or your friends or your significant other, and just spending a day up in Cleveland and going to the ballpark, eating the ballpark food, getting beers or whatnot. If you're old enough.
Yeah, if you're old enough, please be 21.
And all those kind of things. So it's a whole experience, and it's just a shame that it might not happen this year, because it's completely different than going to a basketball game or something like that, because you're out there, you're in the sun, it's nice weather, good vibes. They're playing music all the time. You're watching, your favorite players. It's just a fun experience. So it's a shame that baseball might not even happen this year.
I haven't been to many baseball stadiums, but I would be remiss to say that there is not many better summer nights spent than a 7 p.m. game at Progressive Field.
Right, because it's still warm. The sun hasn't set yet. You got about 3 hours before 2 or 3 hours before it sets. And then once it sets, it's a nice summer night out. And especially, I don't like the fireworks after the games, because they block off Rally Alley and all that stuff. And it's such a hassle to get to our car. or something like that. So I don't like them. But if you have kids or you're with friends and you're the casual fan, you're with your significant other and they want to see the fireworks, it's a fun experience. If you're into that, I'm not too into that, but
I not even for the fireworks for me. I just think there is no better image than looking at the Cleveland night sky behind that billboard and all them stadium lights lit up. There's not a better, there's not a better view.
Just the biggest screen in the MLB with the light up Indians. I know what you're talking about. And then you got the terminal tower lit up, red, white, and blue. It's fantastic.
From the stands, behind home plate, just looking that way, there's no better view.
No, not at all.
Mid-June, 9 or 10 p.m., there's nothing that looks better than it, I don't think. But that's just my personal opinion. I could care less about the fireworks. With what you were saying, first 2 or 3 hours, you're still getting that daytime. It's still light is shining. You're getting into the 6th inning, and then that's when the stadium lights are coming on. You got 9th inning. Your clothes are coming in to basically the nighttime sky getting darker and darker as it becomes more time for him to enter the mound in the 9th inning. I just think everything, the aura of a nighttime game in Cleveland is just insurmountable.
Right, and then it comes down to the final batter, and they're playing final countdown, and he strikes him out or grounds out, and they throw him out. Indians win it, and they play Cleveland Rock, and everybody's singing. It's awesome.
Yeah, me being a baseball fan, not even that big of a baseball fan as you, definitely more football and basketball for me. I still think I'd rather go to an Indians game over a Browns and Cavs game.
Yeah, I mean, the summer night you just described is like going to a mid-December game at First Energy for me. I love those games where you just have to wear like 10 layers of clothes and the snow's coming down. It's just Cleveland grit. You're sitting there, you're getting the lake effect, you're getting the wind off the lake whipping you in the face.
You want to know what's better than mid-December games?
What's that?
I bet you mid-January games are going to be fantastic in Cleveland, my man.
Oh, I can't wait. Knock on wood.
I can't wait either. Hopefully we're in the biz by then. We get the press passes.
Oh, fantastic! That would be awesome.
Let's get it. Let's get that going. Anything else you got for us today, my man?
You know what? We're gonna close it on the MLB.
Sounds good to me. I think it was a good episode. How'd you feel about your first episode as co-host of Any Given Podcast?
I felt good. You made some good points. Got a little sad talking about baseball and missing those summer nights. Other than that, yeah, we made some good points, some good predictions. I have a good feeling about this.
I like it as well. If you, as you can see, our kind of new layout, give our show a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can see the text on our YouTube channel. But if you're listening to the audio, it's at Podcast Given on Twitter, at Any Given Podcast on Instagram, Facebook.com/Any Given Podcast. Follow my man Ethan where?
At ETH Simpson CGOD.
Follow me at BWardCLE on Twitter and Instagram. Couldn't really tell you how to follow me on Facebook, but you can find me there too.
Oh, my Instagram's at ETH Simpson.
Yeah, I knew yours was a little different. I was actually going to switch mine to the same thing. My Instagram's a little different right now, but we don't need to get into that. But overall a great episode. Can't wait for kind of to see where we take it from here. Let me thank you guys for tuning in, and I'm sure I'll have